Hey everybody, come on in. We're going to hang out a little while. It's a little show I call Me on Things and Stuff. We're just going to talk about some current events, hang out and chat. Come on in. I'll give a little bit of time for people to get here. So until then, we'll listen to our badass theme song. It was recommended by Paul Jones of Detroit, I believe. He's a first-time caller, long-time listener. Anyways, it's public domain, so I can use it. I would use any kind of music. Obviously, something a little heavier than Match Game. Something a little more relevant even, maybe. But when you do use another song, like I used to use Mr. Crowley a lot for my conspiracy theory show that I do on Fridays at 7 p.m. Central. Anyhow, I used to use Mr. Crowley for that show, but the Facebook would pull the videos. So I had to stop. But I can use Match Game. So that was Match Game 77. If you're wondering what song that was and you're a game show music aficionado, it was the Match Game 77 theme.
Power on.
So welcome back to the show. I'm going to pull this up on my page. This is like I said, a random little show that I do. Right now it's random. I don't have a regular day or time for it, but it's called Me on Things and Stuff. And what we're going to do is talk about some current events. I have some stories picked out, but we can go on the fly. So feel free to comment and we can talk about whatever you want. I've got a couple things picked out that I already wanted to get into, like Conor McGregor's sexual assault allegations. I want to talk about creepy Joe Biden a little while, and I want to talk about Bernie's record fundraising. So those are things I had picked out already, but we'll talk about a lot of things. Let me pull this up so I can share it myself. Hopefully, if you're here, you've shared it. If not, please share it, or give it a like, or comment, or participate in any way. Because like Facebook, if you probably understand this, operates on an algorithm. So any interaction with a post helps it show up better. So bash those like buttons. Feel free to hit them multiple times. Comment or share. Sharing would be the ultimate help. But any of those things I just listed off all helps me and the show and the page. So this is politics and stuff. Darlene says, while we wait, I just now saw the comments. Sorry, Darlene. But she says, while we wait, do you still support? I absolutely do still support Bernie. We can start with the Bernie story if you want. I want to talk about his fundraising totals. I planned on talking about that as the last thing, but we can get into that first. Or would you rather hear why I still support Bernie? And can I ask why maybe you don't? So that would help me understand and answer your question a little better. Because what maybe you thought there was something recent that was put out that would have changed my views on Bernie. I don't know. I'm doing a lot of what ifs and assumptions. So go ahead and let me know exactly what you want to know about my support of Bernie. Match Game, I love that too. Hold on, I got to turn my phone down because let's see. I got to share this. Let me share this to my page so at least some people from my page can get in here, because like I said, this is sporadic. This show, I have my regular conspiracy theory show that I do on Friday nights, but this is something I'm playing with doing, an additional show for politics and stuff. Because a while back, me and Paul talked, and I agreed to do a little bit more stuff for the page to help the page out, not just the page, but to help my channel out as well, my show, Conspiracy Theories and Chill, and the things that I want to do with my live streaming. I want this to grow into, I'm saying a lot. I want this to grow into a media, like a TYT, if TYT never sold out. You know, a TYT with balls, something, a truth stream media type of thing. That's a YouTube channel, but something like that, where if InfoWars was not disinformation and bullshit. You see what I'm saying? Am I making any sense? I don't know if I am or not. But anyways, I would like to grow into that kind of thing. Darlene says, your show, your choice. No, but I do still support Bernie's. But I was wondering if maybe there was something in the news that you had seen that you thought maybe had made me sway my opinion on Bernie. But we'll start with the Bernie fundraising, because I wanted to get into some news real quick and just talk about a few topics. So Bernie Sanders in his first quarter raised $18.2 million, right? So let's talk about where that $18.2 million comes from, because this is the most impressive thing about it for me. Like, to maybe help answer your question, Darlene, one of the things I love about the Bernie Sanders campaign and his message and direction and method of doing this in general is that he's funded by the people. So this $18.2 million came from 900,000 individual donations from 525,000 contributors. The average donation was only $20. 99.5% of the donations were $100 or less. And the majority of the donors are 39 years old. Just those statistics are mind-blowing. Shakir said that the Sanders campaign also has 28 million cash in hand. He's clearly the front runner. And on Morning Joe this morning, they talked about how he's the most underrated and underreported candidate out there. I was talking to somebody on Facebook today, and they were arguing with me the front runners, because the next thing we're going to talk about Joe Biden. But and they mentioned Kamala Harris, they mentioned a couple other people, but they didn't mention Bernie. And I'm like, why didn't you mention the front runner? You know, that's a little weird. Bernie is clearly the front runner in the Democratic Party, and he's not even being reported on, really. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about this record fundraising and why I think that's important. This statistic, not exactly the $18.2 million, but this 900,000 individual donations. That's people like me. That inspires me. That makes me think that people are getting sick of bullshit and wanting to change things and make things better in the world. You know, they're willing to reach into their own pocket and dish out $27 or $10 or whatever they can afford to Bernie Sanders campaign to help make things better, because they believe that's the way to go. Now, Darlene, I believe you support Trump. Now, you know, can't you admire that, though, what I'm saying there about how the fundraising and the support for Bernie Sanders is coming from individual regular people and not corporations, not billionaires, not big money interests. Oh, give me Bernie over Kamala. Exactly. No one needs another corporate shill. Like Joe Biden. Now, this woman has come forward and talked about how Joe Biden made her feel uncomfortable. Now, that's really all she said. Made her feel invaded. That's all she said. People have twisted that all the way into she's accusing him of rape, basically. But all she said is he made her feel invaded, and he moved into her personal space. He's got a history of doing that. Like, all you have to do, this person on Facebook today was telling me I was being too mean to Joe Biden. You know, I wasn't being fair to him. And I shouldn't bash who the media is saying is the Democratic frontrunner, and that he's just affectionate. Well, let me show you what you get if you search creepy Joe Biden on Google, because I shared a picture with 3 images, and it took me 3 seconds to get. All I did was type in creepy Joe Biden, and all this starts coming up. Like, look at that. Look at this little girl. That's like, what, a 14, 15-year-old girl? Her dad is clearly uncomfortable. She is very uncomfortable. And if you watch this video, there's a video where you can watch this. Search it on Google. Search creepy Uncle Joe or creepy Joe Biden on Google, on YouTube, and you will find it. It's not hard. It's one of the first things that'll come up. you'll see this whole interaction. He's all over this little girl, and she does not like it and does not want it at all. Her parents are clearly uncomfortable. He just keeps going. Now, there's plenty of examples of him doing stuff like this. This woman here in particular, you can watch in the video this. Her husband is there too. Now, I think a lot of what he's doing, is just the actions of, I believe, a sexual predator. This is the way a sexual predator acts. He's look at this. He's sexually looking at the mother while he grabs hold of the daughter. Anyways, I'm just saying there's plenty of examples of him doing this, invading people's personal space, making them uncomfortable. That may be his wife, but I'm not sure who that woman is. This woman here where he's holding her breast, but that may be his wife. There's plenty of examples of him being inappropriate to little kids, to women. And my post was really just talking about how let's not pretend that that doesn't exist. Let's not pretend that Joe Biden doesn't have a history of this kind of behavior and that this woman doesn't have a leg to stand on, because people are saying, well, she worked for the Bernie, or she was a Bernie Sanders supporter, and there's pictures of her hugged up with Obama, so she can't be believed. She's someone that doesn't like Joe Biden or has an agenda against Joe Biden, wants to see Joe Biden fail. She could be telling the truth. Her being involved in those circles only makes her truth more believable because she would have been around Joe Biden. You know, did we say that the woman that came out against Clarence Thomas, did we say she was lying because she was generally around Clarence Thomas? Did that make her a liar because she was associated with him? No. It's ridiculous logic that the woman can't be telling the truth because she's was supporting a Bernie Sanders. But as far as I know, right now she's supporting Beto. But whether she's a Bernie supporter or not shouldn't matter to Joe Biden invading people's personal spaces. That's well established. But anyways, every article you look up tries to make excuses for it. Like this is from Vox. And they're talking about how the controversy over Joe Biden's treatment of women explained, right? They're going to explain it to you. They're going to tell you why this makes sense. And it makes sense because he's an old school politician and they were more hands-on or whatever. No, it's not okay. You're not going to explain it to me. And I'm not going to let you waste your time. But let's see. So Lucy says that Biden made her uncomfortable. I will read her statement. So her account was that I found my way to the holding room for the speakers where everyone was chatting, taking photos, and getting ready to speak to the hundreds of voters in the audience. Just before the speeches, we were ushered to the side of the stage where we were lined up by order of introduction. As I was taking deep breaths and preparing myself to make my case to the crowd, I felt two hands on my shoulders. I froze. Why is the Vice President of the United States touching me? I felt him get closer to me from behind. He leaned further in and inhaled my hair. Tons of pictures of him doing that, by the way. I was mortified. I thought to myself, I didn't wash my hair today, and the Vice President of the United States is smelling it. And also, what in the actual fuck? Why is the Vice President of the United States smelling my hair? He proceeded to plant a big, slow kiss on the back of my head. My brain couldn't process what was happening. I was embarrassed, I was shocked, and I was confused. There is a Spanish saying, Tregame tierra, which means earth swallow me whole. I couldn't move and I couldn't say anything. I wanted nothing more than to get Biden away from me. My name was called and I was never happier to get on stage in front of an audience. Now, that is not proper behavior. I don't care who you are. You're the President of the United States, that's not appropriate behavior. And smelling a woman's hair is sexual. I don't see any denying that. Like, we can have a Pulp Fiction foot rub argument over it if you'd like. But smelling a woman's hair like that is a sexual move. And it's part of arousal. It's part of... Stop bullshitting. Every average person can look at... I shouldn't have closed it. all these pictures of him hugged up on these women and girls and see that he is at least imposing power. Now, if he's not doing it for sexual reasons, he's doing it for power reasons. There's only two reasons to invade people's personal space like that. Like, another example, somebody brought up today, I shouldn't bash Joe Biden because Trump is horrible, like Orange Man bad. So, first off, I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm not a Trump supporter, but I don't like the man for different reasons. I don't like his politics either, but anywho, I don't think everything has to be about Trump. I think I can talk about Joe Biden without mentioning Donald Trump. I will mention Donald Trump when Donald Trump is relevant. I think I can post about Joe Biden without saying Orange Man bad. You know, I don't think I always have to say Orange Man bad in every post in order for people to understand what I'm talking about. I think people can differentiate that Joe Biden can be accused of sexual inappropriate behavior and Trump can grab women by the pussies. These two things can exist in the same world, right? You don't have to agree with either one of them. They're both bad, but you can talk about one of them without mentioning the other. See, I bet if I talked about Trump, you wouldn't go, hey, man, but Joe Biden is still a piece of shit, you know? Why don't we talk about Joe Biden a little bit? I just think that's ridiculous logic. Let me see what anybody's been saying, though, while I was ranting on about those news stories. Darlene says, I agree, Biden is a pedo. He's definitely very inappropriate with little kids. And I'm telling you, you can look up videos of it on YouTube. He's not afraid of the cameras. He acts very inappropriate in front of the cameras. And the way he's looking at them, again, stop bullshitting me. There's something wrong with that man. There's something going on there. So you can defend him if you'd like, but I believe where there's smoke, there's fire. And there is definitely a ton of smoke rolling out of that. So Wade says, I love tits just as much as the next guy. However, those are children he's groping. I will say it again. Those were children. Yeah. And he's robbing on their getting close. He pulls them in to himself, to his growing area. It's clearly wrong. People around it are uncomfortable. Look up the videos for yourself. If you can watch those videos, if you can look up the videos of Creepy Uncle Joe on YouTube, and you can watch them, and you can justify that behavior, we just have a fundamental differences of opinion. We're never going to agree, you know? Because it's just, the behavior is not acceptable. You know, it's not acceptable to be touching people, grown women in that way, but it's definitely not acceptable to be touching children in that way. And making those advances towards children is a huge red flag. So I think it's crazy that he's even being considered for a presidential candidate. But real quick, let's switch gears, because I don't want to spend forever talking about creepy Joe Biden when this is a huge story right now that's not being reported much at all. Conor McGregor, MMA superstar Conor McGregor, is under investigation over sexual assault accusation in Ireland. And you got to hear this story. It is horrific. The details of this sexual assault allegation are horrific, right? And from what I've read that's been reported so far, which hasn't been a whole lot, you've had to really search out for this story. Most people didn't want to touch it, especially in our media, because Conor is so litigious. People are afraid of being sued for coming out with this too early. And in Ireland, it is actually illegal to report sexual assault before the person has been convicted, proved guilty. You can't report it. So all they've really been reporting is it's an Irish star that was arrested 2 months ago, or in January, whenever January was more than 2 months ago. But in January, he was arrested. And all that was reported was it was an Irish star, right? Not a footballer. That's all they would say. So that's a soccer player. So it was not a famous Irish soccer player. Who else is a famous Irish superstar? You know? So, but people were still afraid to come forward with it that it was Conor. So that just lets you know how much power and influence gets you. So you're just hearing about this in April. You know, he was arrested in January. But anyways, the victim is not just any woman. This happens to be a family friend of Conor McGregor's. It is a friend of his niece's wife or whatever, but a close person to the Conor McGregor family or the McGregor family. And it gets worse. So it's not just a close friend. She's in this hotel room with him and a bunch of Irish gangsters. Now, there's no video from inside the hotel room, but there is closed circuit TV footage of him and all the other people going into the hotel room. So from the hallway. So it's known that he was in there with all these Irish gangsters. And they were all in there for the entire period where what is being reported happened in this room, and this is graphic. If you don't want to hear this, I would not blame you. I suggest turning this off for about a minute because this is graphic. I'm going to try my best to say it in the best way I can. But in this room full of gangsters, Conor McGregor tried to kiss this girl, right? And apparently she rejected his advances. So he proceeds to beat her in front of all these gangsters and sodomize her. She has to have a tampon removed from her cervix. All of this in front of all these gangsters. And you're just now hearing about this in April because it took place in Ireland, where it is illegal to report on sexual assault allegations until the person is found guilty, which I believe is just ridiculous. And when you couple that with somebody that's as famous and as rich and powerful as Conor McGregor, apparently you can even keep it out of the U.S. news for 4 months. But now it's making a little more sense why Conor's retiring from the UFC. I don't know if you'd heard that, but he recently announced his retirement from the UFC. Now it's making a little more sense. He's in a shitload of trouble in his home country. But so now I'm out of stories. Those are the 3 things I wrote to talk about. So while I wait for you guys to mention something you'd like to get into, because we can go for a while longer. This is, like I said, this is a show I'm playing with. This is an idea I'm kicking around where I just come on and talk about a few recent news stories that caught my attention that I felt are interesting and wanted to discuss with you guys. I wish I had minimized or closed the Bernie story because I'd like to spend a little more time talking about that. I feel like that is very impressive. The only reason why I'm even involved in politics is because of Bernie Sanders. And the reason for that is I believe what has to happen has got to be for everyone to rise up. We've got to rise up and take our country back, right? That's all that's really going to work. We can try to vote our way out of this, but that's not going to work. You can't vote your way out of a rigged system and a rigged game. The reason why Bernie excites me is because he says that over and over and over again in his speeches. He doesn't outright tell you to rise up, but he tells you over and over again that nothing's going to change till millions of you take a stand, united, and demand it. Now, what do you think that means? So he says that over and over again. People are stupid. Don't take that wrong. It's not that we're stupid. It's that it takes a while to get an idea through our heads. Our brains defend themselves against new ideas, and as counterproductive and unlawful as that is, it's just a fact. So it's why on children's programming, you'll see things repeated 3 times. Think about it. When you watch Dora the Explorer, she says everything and does everything 3 times. The reason for that is it helps them learn. You know, she'll say it in Spanish, she'll say it in English, she'll do and repeat. She'll repeat things. And then the episodes repeat very often during the day because repetition helps your mind remember things. So I like Bernie's message. I like his stump speech. I like that he gets such large crowds. I like that people are listening to him. And I like that people are realizing that they have to take a personal interest, reach in their own pockets 900,000 times. I just showed you the stats. And send their money up the chain to someone that they believe in, to an issue or a thing that they believe in, and stand together and move forward united in order to make that happen. And I would love to see us do that. So Bernie gives me inspiration that people will actually do what's necessary to move forward and make real change. Now, will we realize that our job doesn't stop at electing Bernie Sanders as president? I don't know. I think most of us will just clock out. We need to realize that we can't do that. That it's not time to clock out when we get when and if we got Bernie Sanders elected president. It's not time to clock out. It's time to start working. You know, you're just getting started. That was just a small victory. It might feel huge. It's the office of the president. It might feel huge, but Bernie's not going to be able to do shit unless you stay behind him. Help get rid of people that are going to try and hinder his work. Get rid of these establishment shills and replace them with progressive candidates. If we don't do all of that stuff, it'll never work. And the only reason why I'm even behind that political strategy is because I don't feel like the average American is ready to rise up, which is what we really need to do. We really need to do what they're doing in France, the yellow vest protests. We really need to do a version of that. We need to rise up. It's what really needs to happen. It's probably the only thing that will stop the New World Order agenda and what's going on in our world and the destruction of our planet. It's probably the only thing that will stop all those things. I just like Bernie Sanders because it helps me see people taking baby steps to realize that this is our personal responsibility. You have to participate in a democracy, you know, and I like that. Darlene is Bernie for gun control. He's for sensible gun control, restrictions on assault weapons, I think. I believe his rating with the NRA is a D or D minus. But I think he's just for sensible gun control. I wish I had a better answer for you on exactly what that means, but not taking away your guns by any stretch of the imagination. I don't believe he's for that, which is what I think it always gets spread into. It's always like you can't even give an inch. It's like I can't give up an AR-15 or I can't give up a bump stock because then they're going to want my 22. They're going to eventually come for everything. And I get that logic a little bit because I'm that way on the First Amendment. But I think we need to realize that these things, whether they're neat or not, and I'm not saying they're not neat, cool guns are neat, but are they necessary? You know, so in that way, Bernie's for gun control. That's the best way I can answer it. I'll try to learn more to answer it better in the future. But that's why he inspires me. I like those things about him. So I like him win or lose. Win or lose, I think that Bernie Sanders campaigning is a good thing because you're getting that message out to people from someone that, one, has stage presence and the ability to get large amounts of people, not only to come see him, but to want to listen to him and to listen to what he's saying. Two, he's repeating an important message over and over again in a way that people are going to be able to receive, speaking in a language people will be able to get. John F. Kennedy spread a lot of truth, but he spoke poetically. You know, a lot of people didn't fully get it. John F. Kennedy dropped a lot of truth bombs, but he did it in a way where your average person, sadly, is going to go right over their head. Bernie, on the other hand, speaks to those people, speaks to your average people, and I feel speaks to intelligent people as well. He has a way of doing that. So I like him for those reasons, and he's spreading an important message. So even if he doesn't win, people will always, well, they'll never let him win. The DNC, they're not going to let him win. They'll never let him through. It's not going to happen. They'll rig it again. Now, do I think they'll rig it again? Let's address that bit by bit. Yes, I do. They're already trying to. Think about it. They were already trying to push Joe Biden as the front runner in every poll, knowing he has this groping women problem. Don't tell me that I knew that and they didn't know it. So they knew that. Moving forward anyway, rigging every poll to say that Joe Biden's the front runner when Bernie Sanders is clearly the front runner. Some of the polls didn't even mention Bernie Sanders at all. Yes, I think they'll try to rig it. Whether they get away with it or not, again, falls on us. We need to start taking personal responsibility for this. The DNC is corrupt, Darlene. But there are more of us than them. Now, I get the same pushback when we talk about how Bernie finances his ideas. When we talk about taxing the rich, people will say, you're never going to be able to tax the rich, Sean. We're never going to tax the rich. Are you crazy? They're too powerful. They have too much influence. It's going to fall on the average person, Sean. You know, the average person's taxes are going to go up. It's not going to fall on the rich. It's never going to happen that way. They're too powerful. Why are we so fucking afraid of these people? There's more of us than there are of them. When are we going to realize that if we use our true numbers and our true influence, we could actually make real change, whether they like it or not? I'm not asking for their consent. I'm saying we stop giving ours. Our silence is our consent. We need to stop being silent. Rise up, use our power, use our strength, get results. Darlene says, but Sean, he doesn't live his life by what he pushes. Who, Bernie? In what way? In what way does he not live his life the way he pushes? Is it because he has 3 houses? Because I don't fault the man for having 3 houses. One of those 3 houses came from an inheritance that Jane got when a relative died recently, in the last few years. 2, that the man making $300,000 a year, his salary is $300,000 a year, and he's written books, he even has a folk album. The man has been a success. So 2 houses, 2 $300,000 houses for a man that's worth at least $1 million. I don't think that's so outlandish. I think maybe 2 houses is too much. Maybe they'll sell one of them. Who knows? But I don't fault him for having them. I don't think he's living beyond his means. If you're talking about that picture of him driving a Bugatti, that's a fake picture. That's not real. Like Kathy's saying, he stood by these same causes for 50 years. He's either running a 50-year con or he's legit. You know, he's either running a 50-year con to where he can pull the rug under us when he finally gets elected president. He can pull the rug under us and show his true colors, or he's legit. Will he be able to be elected? Again, like I said, that falls on us. If we allow the DNC to rig the primary, they will do it again. They'll do it right in front of us, and they won't give a shit if we stand for it. Now, people will say, well, Sean, we didn't stand for it last time. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Because, again, I'm going to tell you something Bernie said 3 or 4 times every speech. Millions of us have to stand united for things to happen, right? There were not millions of us in Philadelphia. As much as that stings and hurts, I was one of the people that wasn't there. I understand why we couldn't make it, but there wasn't millions of us standing up demanding a fair primary. We gave him no army and wanted him to stand and crucify himself. The people that are mad at him for not crucifying himself. wanted him to stand and crucify himself with no army. We were on Facebook, we were on Twitter, but we weren't standing in Philadelphia. And that's what he needed. That's what had to happen. That's what happened in, what, 76? You had to flood those damn streets. You got to. If you don't make yourself heard and you don't make your power known and your demands known, how can you expect them to ever be met? No one is going to be able to do this for you. Not Bernie Sanders, not Donald Trump, no one. We got to do this ourselves. You can get behind a leader, like my particular choice is Bernie, whatever, your choice can be someone else, but we need to get behind them and unify. I think we need to find somebody that the majority of us can unify behind and really push forward, not just behind that person, but behind all the issues and things we believe in, which means electing more people to help support that person if you're going to go the political route. If not, we need to throw on yellow vests and get out in the streets and rise up, because we need to do one or two things. We can't lay back anymore. It's not okay to stay quiet anymore. We can't consent to this bullshit anymore. So you get involved, and I can't even fault the Trump supporters because they're involved. You know, I may not agree with who they're involved with, but they're involved. Like, you got to take an interest in the world around you. You got to be involved. You know, so like I said, I've had Trump supporters on the show, on my conspiracy show, and I'm going to have them on again, you know, because I don't close myself off. I don't agree with closing yourself off. I don't see the point or value in living in an echo chamber. I don't think there's anything valuable about that at all. So Darlene says, I don't dislike Bernie. Socialism doesn't work. Well, as Kathy says, we're not talking about socialism. We're talking about democratic socialism, which we already have. I'm sure you enjoy our roads. I'm sure if your house is on fire, you call the fire department. I'm sure when you're in trouble, you call the police. And I bet you anything, you have a Social Security card in your wallet. So we already have social programs. We're just talking about having more of them, using tax dollars to benefit society instead of constant war and, you know, $38 billion a year to Israel, for example, instead of shit like that, you know, and tax breaks to billionaires. Instead of all that, actually doing things for your average person, making sure people have health care, for example, free public college. Now, that doesn't mean you can't still pay to go to Harvard. That means that your local community college will be free to go to, but paid for by taxes. It doesn't mean you can't still get a better education. The University of whatever, Missouri or all that will still be there. You'll still have that option, but they'll have to compete with the fact that you can go to public option. So they won't be able to be so, let's be quite frank, fucking unreasonable with their prices. Universities charge ridiculous amounts. Think about how much a textbook is for a university class. These are hundreds of dollars for a textbook. Just for example, it's outrageous. Now let them compete with public option. They could still be there. That's the whole point of a capitalist society. Is this all will help us. It all helps society. It's all good things. And it's not that hard to fund with taxes. If you stop giving Jeff Bezos such a tax break that he pays nothing in fucking taxes, you pay taxes, I pay taxes. How come he doesn't pay taxes? Why are we so afraid to make him pay taxes and use that money to benefit society? I don't understand. Darlene says she's for people helping themselves. People should help themselves. I am for people helping themselves too, right? I'm just saying I pay taxes. Now, what do I want that money used for? Would I rather that money be used for constant war and tax breaks for billionaires, corporate welfare, or would I rather it be used to help my fellow man, to better society, to better my own life, right? Do I want to live in a world where my grandma has to cut her medication in half because I guess in your view, her and my grandpa didn't try hard enough and they don't have enough saved for their retirement, and she should have to cut her pills in half? I disagree. I think we live in a world run by greed, where pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare industry has been allowed to run rampant, and they charge up to 800% more for medication in this country than they do around the world. On certain medications, it's as high as 800% higher here than anywhere else. Our healthcare industry is ridiculous. An ambulance ride is what, $5,000? Are you fucking kidding me? $5,000 to ride in an ambulance. An aspirin at a hospital is about what, $12 for one aspirin, when you can buy a whole bottle for $3 with 200 tablets in it. You know, Darlene says she's talking about the working generation. I'm 64 myself. I'm 42. I consider myself to be of the working generation. I'm afraid I don't know that terminology. That might be a specific period of time, but I'm thinking we're still in the working generation. I have, well, one job that I work about 20 hours a week overtime at, and then the stuff I do on the side. My wife has 2 jobs. So between us, we almost have 4 jobs. You know, my side stuff's not consistent, but 4 jobs between us. I consider myself part of the working generation. Darlene says, take Big Pharma down. Absolutely. And the healthcare industry. Insurance. Don't tell me you're not being gouged by your insurance agency. I'm proud of you that you have private insurance through your job, or if you're the type of person that can afford it without going through your work, I'm even more proud of you. Virtual high five, pat on the back, all of that. But I happen to have it through my work too. But I would rather have Medicare for all, have everyone be covered, and have the private insurance industry crippled. I believe they deserve it. I believe the healthcare industry needs to be regulated. I believe they deserve it. I believe they've run wild. I believe their greed has literally killed millions of people. So I don't feel bad for them at all. Kathy says you lost your signal. That sucks. It doesn't surprise me. I believe our feeds are suppressed. I believe we have much more of a reach than we're actually seeing. You know, I believe the truth is always suppressed, especially in this day and age. Just recently, on the last episode of this little show I'm trying to put together, I talked about how YouTube is pulling all conspiracy videos, all videos they feel are conspiratorial. They're not going to recommend or support anymore. They're not going to delete them from your channel as that's supposed to comfort you. We're going to keep all eyes off of them. So no one's going to view your video. You can still have it loaded. How that's a concession, I don't see, because the whole point of making videos as someone that makes YouTube videos is to get people to watch your videos. I make videos so people will watch them. I don't make them just to make them. So I'm going to have to find a new place to put my videos, is the short version of what I'm saying. Because conspiracy videos, which I have a whole show on conspiracies, is being silenced on YouTube. And I think we need to be outraged about stuff like that. That's your free speech. And I don't want to hear that YouTube's a private company. They can silence people. They have that right. They have a monopoly on that particular type of speech and that particular type of sharing. Like the post office has a monopoly on mail. And I don't think they should be able to take your right away to do that if you don't violate their standards, if you're not, advocating harm on people, if you're not hurting people, if you're not doing anything like that. I don't believe they should be able to shut you down. just speech you don't agree with, speech you find conspiratorial, then again, you have to get into who's going to define that. Who's going to define what speech is conspiratorial? Who's going to define what gets shut up? Where does it stop? Where does it end? We need to speak up. I called for a boycott of YouTube. It did not catch on. I don't know why. I guess we're just going to let this shit happen. You know, you see us getting closer and closer to the world of 1984, and we're just letting it happen. Like, Amazon is literally burning books. They're deleting books. They're the world's largest bookseller. You know, people want to say, again, they want to defend it because it's a private company. They're like, oh, Amazon can choose and to not sell books they don't want to. Not when you're the largest bookseller on the planet. Not when there's nobody to compete with you. I don't think you can. I think when you're pulling books from your site, that's like book burning. It's the same thing. You know, you pull them from your site, you pull them from the libraries, you pull them from the eyes and ears of everyone in existence. You basically destroyed that book. Because you didn't agree with it, you know? People should be able to make those decisions for themselves. I don't want someone making that decision for me. Just like I don't agree with Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is a disinformation shill. I think his whole show is bullshit, propaganda, disinformation. I think that's his whole purpose, is to make conspiracy theorists look crazy. And he does a really good job of it. But I don't agree with taking away and deplatforming him. I don't agree with taking away his speech and deplatforming him, because I believe we all have a right to that. And that the way you fight back against an Alex Jones, if you don't agree with him, is you don't watch him. You don't share him, you don't talk about him, you don't give him any attention. So there's no such thing as bad publicity. So even bashing Alex Jones is good for Alex Jones. You see what I'm saying? There's no such thing as bad publicity. If you're going around telling everybody, God, I hate Sean. Sean Yankee's terrible. Don't ever watch me on Things and Stuff or Conspiracy Theories and Chill. That's going to make people wonder, well, I never even heard of Sean. So now I kind of want to see me on Things and Stuff and Conspiracy Theories and Chill, you know? So no such thing as bad publicity. You're talking about somebody, you're doing them a favor. I don't like Alex Jones either. I don't watch him, but I agree with his right to exist, his right to have a platform, his right to have a voice is what I'm saying. Because I agree with my right to have a platform and a voice. I agree with your right to have a platform and a voice. Free speech is useless if no one can hear you. Like, oh, you have the right. Oh, you're free to speak however you'd like, but we're taking your right away. We're taking your right away. No one's going to hear you over here. No one can hear you over here. Go scream in your backyard or something. You know, free speech. Go talk to a tree. You know, our social square, our public square, where all our business and social interactions take place nowadays, is online. And these certain companies, Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, they have a monopoly over that industry. Like, on one hand, I'm not out of fingers yet. And if I want to run an internet business and those 4 places shut me down, who do I have? You know, if Google is taking down my search results and everybody uses Google, if Google pulls me and I have to switch to relying on Bing, now I'm down to whoever uses Bing. Don't tell me they can't, that's not silencing you. Oh, you still have free speech. Alex Jones still has his website, and that's true. And by the way, they have a huge following. He has something like 35 million viewers on his website. So it's no laughing matter. He makes a good living for himself being a fucking shill. But that's all he is. But you're not killing him off. You're making him stronger. Like I said, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So I could start a website too, and if you made me a monster and put me all in the internet, it would grow. Darlene says the MS mainstream media is giving Q so much attention. They are afraid of truth being exposed. They're terrified of truth being exposed. And they are playing up to Q. I don't watch any mainstream media. I try not to anyway. I keep up with what they're talking about, and that's about it. Because I believe that there's hypnosis and brainwash buried in that shit. I believe it's dangerous to watch the mainstream media. Turn that off. But they are letting Q stuff on, talking about Q stuff, just like Trump acknowledges and plays along with the Q stuff. You know, they're definitely being encouraged. The QAnon community is definitely being encouraged. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap up? We've been going for about an hour. This is just a little show for those watching later or those just getting here, called Me on Things and Stuff. We talked about a few things in the news. Now we're just hanging out, talking about whatever. So a few of the things we got into today is Conor McGregor's sexual assault allegations. If you don't know about that, Conor McGregor is under sexual investigation for sexual assault in Ireland. And watch this video from the beginning to see more on that story. We go into it. We talked about creepy Uncle Joe Biden, and we talked about Bernie's record fundraising. Kathy says, thanks, good points. And Darlene says, it's been a good discussion. I thank you guys, too, for stopping by and hanging out. And like I said, this is going to become a regular thing. I'm playing with it now, putting it together. But I think it's a good idea for a show, and I like the name of it, Me on Things and Stuff. That's the same name as my YouTube channel, by the way. If you want to check me out and support me, one of the best ways to do it is to go over and subscribe and share some stuff and do some stuff over on my YouTube channel. Because just like Facebook, they have an algorithm, and participation with your posts helps them show up better. So like and share a video, comment on something. That helps me a lot, and that's all free. So you can do all that to help me out, and I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. This has been Me on Things and Stuff, from politics and stuff. We'll see you on the next episode. I'm not sure when that'll be, but I will be on Friday night at 7 p.m. Central for a new episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill. I don't have a topic yet, so if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see us go into on Friday night, leave them in the comment section and maybe we will. So we'll see you Friday night at 7 p.m. Central for Conspiracy Theories and Chill. Thanks for stopping by Me on Things and Stuff. I'm Sean. Have a great day.